Hi record collectors. Today's artist I'm going to feature is the group Blondie, and of course a little bit of Debbie Harry as well. So if we're going to start with the history of Blondie, we would have to start way back with this record here, The Wind in the Willows. Now you ask, what in the world has that got to do with Blondie? Well, it's on, by the way, it's on the Capitol Rainbow pressing. That's Deborah Harry there. This is an album released around 1969, give or take a year. And this is sort of a little mishmash of everything. There's a little bit of sort of folk music, psychedelic music, other things. And on this album, Deborah Harry is doing backing vocals, and she's playing things like fingers, cymbals, tambourine, things like that. Then that group, they only put out the one album. Then after that, Deborah Harry joined a group, or Debbie Harry joined a group called Stilettos, I think, and that's where she ended up meeting Chris Stein, and together then they left to form the group of Blondie. And initially they signed up with a record company that was called Private Stock Records, and they released their first album, which is Blondie, of course, and it didn't sell very well. And what happened was that the group bought back their contract from the record company, Private Stock Records, and they signed with Chrysalis, and as they say, then from that point everything is history. So once again, this album was re-released on the Chrysalis label. And debut album, it didn't really do super well. It was released in 1976, and as far as I know, at the time it did not chart in the US or in the UK. But it certainly got their career going, and on this one, Ex-Offender, Ripper to Shreds, is a couple that I can remember from the day. Second album, the Plastic Letters. Plastic Letters came out in 1978, charted 72 in the US and number 10 in the UK. And on this one here, I think is Denise, which was a bit of a hit. And I should mention already by the second album there was personnel changes, but basically there's only the three members who were really consistent with the group through its entire life. And that would be, of course, Debbie Harry, Chris Stein, and their drummer Clem Burke. The other individuals were constantly being changed. Even right here, there was on the first album there was 5 members, and then this one, the second one, was only 4 members. In association with Plastic Letters, we have this one, which is a UK pressing, I believe, which had 3 songs on it: Denise, Kung Fu Girls, Contact and Red Square. UK pressing. Probably around the same time, 1978. Then came their album that launched it all, of course, and that would be Parallel Lines. Some big hits on there, of course, Heart of Glass. So Parallel Lines reached number 6 in the US and number 1 in the UK, the album. As well on there's Heart of Glass, Hanging on the Telephone, I can remember from on the radio from that album. This is an album that seems to be really popular with teenage girls. When I hang out at the flea markets with vinyl vendors, almost every time you'll get someone like 16, 17-year-old come up, and what they're asking for, they say, do you have Blondie? Do you have the Heart of Glass album? Of course they mean Parallel Lines, and usually the vendors don't have it. So then, Parallel Lines was 1978, and then Eat to the Beat, 1979. Eat to the Beat, the album reached 17 in the US and number 1 in the UK. And Dreaming is on this one, which I can remember. Atomic is another one. Union City Blues. There's a few there that I can remember being on the radio back in the day. So the next one, Autoamericana, which was released in 1980 and reached number 7 on the US charts, number 3 on the UK charts. Of course, this is the one with Rapture on it. It's a big hit. I think Tide is High is on this one too, if I can remember correctly, which was another big hit. Should mention Debbie Harry herself was born in 1945, so that makes her now 72 years old this year. Finally, the last album from 1982 was Hunter, and that's why I titled this The Early Years, because after the release of this album, they basically took 17 years off before they reformed again to sort of release some more albums. And this one obviously is a Japanese pressing. It's got the OB strip. This one a little bit different than some of the earlier ones. War Child, of course, was one that I can remember on the radio. I think there's a little bit more synthesizer in that on this one. So the group disbanded pretty much around 1982, and there was some legal issues. I think some members of the group tried to sue other members. In the meantime, Debbie Harry was still quite busy. She was doing television, movies, and was collaborating with other musicians on their records. So she kept quite busy. Then in 1999, the group started reformed. Well, the core three, so that was Debbie Harry, Chris Stein, and Clemberg, and they started putting out albums. Now, I got to be honest, at that point, I really didn't follow the group that much. I don't even think I was aware that they had gotten back together, but I did pick up one, and I think this is one that was released last year, 2017, which is Pollinator. And if you ever listen to this one, when I listen to this, certain songs on this album will I can associate with songs from some of their earlier albums. Like there's one particular one on this album that reminds me very much of The Tide is High. Still a pretty good album. Through all these albums, Debbie Harry's voice remains pretty consistent. Basically, if you like one album, you'll like them all. I also picked this one up, and what this is a fairly recent release, and this is I still got the shrink on this. And though this is a recent release, it is songs that were recorded at the very beginning of the band's career. So you're hearing Blondie from around 1976. I don't know if they give the actual. I think it was actually recorded in 1977, 2 shows in San Francisco. And so you're probably pretty much the material that you would find on the first couple of albums. So this was recorded live, probably in a bar. And worth picking up if you're a Blondie fan. Not bad to have. So I mentioned during the years between 82 and 99, Blondie was doing some solo stuff. I got a little bit of that as well. Not Blondie, but Debbie Harry. I was referred to as Blondie. Japanese pressing. There's an album she put out called Cuckoo. It was released in 1981. I think it charted around 25 in the US. I think like number 6 maybe in the UK. Not bad. Pretty good album. You know, sort of sounds like Blondie, the group. And she put out this one. This one is actually really good. This is one of my favorite of all the LPs. Rockbird here. And this was released in 1986. I think it reached around 97 on the charts in the US and 31 in the UK. I think this is one with the French Kissing in the USA, which became a bit of a hit, especially in the UK, I think. Sort of a dance song. I love that song. So, very good. This one, pretty good production value, like a lot of horns and that on it. Sort of more arrangement than sort of the Blondie's early stuff, that group. You might really like this one. One last one by Debbie Harry, Deaf, Dumb and Blonde, which came out in 1989. I think it charted around 123 US and about 12 in the UK. Also a pretty good album. She put out a couple more solo albums, I think, and there's some greatest hits albums. Obviously with a title like this, Deaf, Dumb and Blonde, she had a bit of a sense of humor, and I think one of her other albums she put out was Back to the Bleach, with a takeoff on those 60 Beach albums. I mentioned as well that she collaborated with a number of musical groups. There's one here, No Talking, Just Head. What this is the 3 members of the Talking Heads without David Byrne. So that would be Chris, Tina, and Jerry. And this is when the Talking Heads broke up, and David Byrne wanted nothing to do with the other 3, and so they invited other individuals to participate, doing lead vocal work. And Deborah Harry is on this one. I think she does the title track, No Talking, Just Head. Deborah Harry's on this one. A couple videos. This one here is, I think it's pretty much some of her videos from back in the late 70s, early 80s. Pretty simple stuff, not much on there. I don't think, no, there's no book, no, nothing. And this is a more recent one, I think from, I can't remember exactly, maybe 5-6 years back. Blondie, Live by Request. I'm not sure if this was on PBS or something like that, where people were phoning in their requests and she was performing them. One of the ones on here that you don't find on the albums was that single Call Me, which was a huge, huge success, especially in Europe, especially the UK. I think it was like #1 on the charts. I know it was #1 on the charts in Canada for like 6 weeks, that single Call Me. Oh, one other tidbit too that I should mention, a little bit interesting. On one of their albums, let me see, I think it was this one here, Hunter. There's a song here, For Your Eyes Only. That was intended to be the James Bond song for that movie, Your Eyes Only. When the producers of the movie heard it, they weren't too keen on it, so they didn't use it. And instead, they got Sheena Easton to record that song. And I think Blondie was also now in the Rock and Roll inductee in the Hall of Fame. I think it was around 2006 that the band Blondie entered the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So that's pretty much it for my Blondie and Debbie Harry records. So as always, thanks for watching and have a great day.